Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this fantastic venue. I don't know if all of you realize, but this is, and I'm not even sure the governor realizes, but this beach was selected as one of the top 25 beaches in the United States 2 years in a row by Travel and Leisure magazine. And the only beach in this state that has that designation, we're very proud of this beach. And we're also very proud to help sponsor today's gathering with the governor, with our great partner, the Chamber of Commerce of Eastern Connecticut. I thank Tony Sheridan for all his support in everything that's been going on in New London. And he actually, along with the state, demonstrated that support by moving the Chamber's offices back into downtown New London for the first time in decades. And that's the great innovation center that's opened up on Eugene O'Neill Drive. So thank you, Tony. So having the governor here today is special because it brings me back to his first week in office when he came to New London, to the Guard Arts, and he painted his vision for not only the state, but for cities like New London and their revival. And the proof is there for everybody's eyes now, a little over 6 years later. And with this partnership with Governor Lamont's administration, New London has really had an economic resurgence. And it's been the support of his government and his wonderful commissioners and their close working relationship with the directors of our departments here in the city that we've been able to achieve everything that we have. The investment by the state government in the city of New London over the last few years has been enormous, and it's greatly appreciated. And it's for public projects and private projects, projects like the Innovation Center at the Chamber of Commerce, supporting our brownfield initiatives. Almost nothing can be redone in New London without environmental remediation. That's the first piece. That requires coordination with DECD and DEP. It requires tapping into EPA brownfields money and state brownfields money. And every project requires that, whether it's a public project or a private project. So for instance, with the state's help, the city is investing in a $40 million recreation center for the city of New London and for the region. That project started with a $1 million grant from the state to help us remediate the property at Fort Trumbull that we're building the project on. The taxpayers in New London deserve a recreation center. We haven't had one since the mid-'80s when the YMCA left. The taxpayers are putting up $30 million, and the state has come through with the balance of the money to make sure that the folks in New London have that fair shake, that fair chance at well-being as everybody else in the state does. So we appreciate projects like that. Our downtown renovation wouldn't happen without, and the governor's been there every step of the way, seeing the progress of the historic renovation of those buildings. Affordable housing. We have that fantastic project that's underway and half done up on Bayonet Street. Phase 1 was completed. The governor's been there with that. Phase 2 is underway. St. Mary's Home is renovated. The state supports our affordable housing developers like Echo, Habitat, and Hope. It's just, if you're getting the picture, right? Everything is dependent on a great working relationship with the governor's administration. So I have here the whole executive team of the City of New London. They've been recognized for their work. Both Director Reyes of Economic Development and Jeannie Milstein of our Human Services Department have been appointed to key commissions by the governor. For a small city, we punch well above our weight. And so it's with deep gratitude and honor that I get to introduce him today, Governor Lamont.
I'll pick up where Mike left off. I mean, I think the state's doing pretty well, and if we're all doing as well as New London's doing, the state would be doing even better. We've made real progress since that first meeting at the Guard 6 years ago. I see the original Mayor Pete here in Norwich and what we got going there. I don't know if Keith is here over in Groton, but I love the activity that we see here. We've built more housing here in New London in the last 3 years than we had in the last 13 years combined. And that's because people want to come back to the state of Connecticut. People are moving into the state of Connecticut. And New London and Norwich and Groton are at the top of their list in terms of where people want to be. And it wasn't always that way, if you remember, Tony, from when we were here some years ago. You know, the moving vans are leaving and GE is left, and last one out, turn out the lights. It was just a little, we were a little down on ourselves. And I'm really pleased that over the last, few years, we've had tens of thousands of families moving into the state of Connecticut, all across the board, not just the greater New London area. A lot of them coming in from New York, a lot of them coming down from Massachusetts. I think that helps us because there's a great global search for talent, global search for workforce. We got to work really hard, especially right here. I mean, EB is adding on about 5,000 people or hiring about 5,000 people a year. And if I can't keep that supply chain going in terms of workforce, that work can go somewhere else. And right now, we're more than keeping up. I also love the fact that people are moving to the state of Connecticut because, as I've said many a time, I don't want any more taxes, but I don't mind a few more taxpayers. And with tens of thousands of families moving in, compared to Massachusetts, which is got a deficit, New York, which has got a deficit, we're still above water. And a lot of that is because of the fact that, we've got a lot more people paying into the state of Connecticut and keeping us growing. We're the fastest growing economy in the Northeast, by the way. That's not bad. We were the slowest for a long time. We still have a way to go, by the way. Northeast is not the fastest growing region of the country, but we're still more than holding our own compared to our peers. A lot of that's going on right around here, what you see in terms of advanced manufacturing and EB and wind power, as we can talk about a little bit. A lot of that is what you see in terms of tourism. You know, we had more visitors to the state of Connecticut during COVID than we've ever had before. A lot of people were coming into the state. A lot of people were visiting. Our beaches were open. Our golf courses were open. Our parks were open. And a lot of people stayed. And that was a part of the momentum that we saw. I got to work hard to keep that momentum going. If I've got, one or two concerns, one of them is housing. As I said, I think New London's doing its fair share. But in, other communities, we've got to keep rebuilding. Every single business I talk to tells me the same thing. I'm willing to grow here. I'm willing to expand here. I'm willing to move here. Will I have the workforce? And will there be a place for them to live? And it's not just, 2.1 kids in a house in the suburbs with single people, younger people, startups, studios, downtown areas, vibrant cities. That's what a lot of the folks are looking for. And, New London's no exception. Our cities in this state were, 30, 40% bigger, 40 or 50 years ago. And you see a lot of parking lots and some brownfields, and we're turning those parking lots and brownfields back into housing. And thank God the demand is there, and it's bringing our main streets and downtowns back to life, which I think is incredibly important. When it comes to tourism, I'll tell you just one other thing that's coming up, and I'd love your help on this. We've got the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. That's going to be a big deal in Connecticut. We're the heart and soul of what was going on during those revolutionary times, and we're going to be putting a fair amount of resources behind that, making sure people know what the state's all about, why they want to visit the state, and what a difference they can make. And, we did a lot during the Revolutionary War. We had our leaders. Okay, Benedict Arnold, he wasn't so great, but frankly, he won probably one of the most important battles of the Revolutionary War. I'd love to digress. Battle of Ticonderoga. The British took a look at that and said, man, maybe the revolutionaries are willing to fight and fight hard, and made a difference. Then I started hanging out with Peggy Shippen, and something bad happened to him. And the battle right here and the burning of New London, that was just extraordinarily derelict for a guy that grew up in Mayor Pete's hometown, actually, right down the street in Norwich. But it's part of our revolutionary history. It was one of the most important battles of the war right here in Groton and New London. You maybe know because Cornwallis wanted to divert Washington's troops from going down to Yorktown, and he wanted to keep them up here in New England. So that's when they had Benedict Arnold lead that raid. We paid the brunt of that, but we slowed down the forces. Washington kept going, and the war was won. I'll say more broadly, what you see in terms of advanced manufacturing in this part of the state is just incredibly important. We have to work really hard to stay competitive. It's kind of easy being governor of Florida because you tax tourism and everything keeps going, or Texas, you tax oil and gas and you can sort of pay for things. Connecticut, we have to work hard, and that means the best trained, most productive workforce in the world. And we have to work hard because a lot of other states are catching up, but we're staying ahead. And that's why Connecticut makes the most complicated and sophisticated things in the world, like submarines and like F-35s and like helicopters, and all the hundreds of companies in the supply chain, and how that's going to be radically transformed over the next 10, 15 years with AI and other advanced manufacturing. More of the companies coming back to Connecticut, more companies coming onshore from places like China. I got to make sure Connecticut continues to compete there and make a difference. In the old days, we used to just try and say, hey, we'll give you $40 million if you move to Connecticut. We don't play that game as much anymore, but what we do is talk to companies like EB and say, who is there in your supply chain that maybe is farther afield, you'd like to get closer to the mothership? Let's work together in bringing them to Connecticut, places where there's a real strategic reason for them to be here. As I look further afield, I can tell you that the greater New Haven area, New Haven, Yukon, back and forth, what you see in terms of life sciences and growth there has been extraordinary. We've got some of the best life sciences investments in academic and research, alongside quantum computing anywhere in the country and beyond. And we've had 50, 60 startups all in that corridor, and this is what we ought to be thinking about for this region as well. Really great high-paying jobs. You got Pfizer right down the street. We ought to be working more closely with Pfizer, Ken, in terms of how we can build on that relationship going forward. We've got FinTech, which is financial technology services, as you continue to fundamentally change how we deliver financial services. That's everything from InsurTech in the greater Hartford area, down to just financial services in, the Fairfield County. And all those fields are going to be just dramatically transformed over the next 10 plus years with artificial intelligence. We're making big investments there. I hope some of your companies are looking into this as well. How we can make sure that Connecticut stays at the forefront. I'll just give you one example. Say insurance. We've got a fair amount of money coming from the feds, which is going to go to resilience, because we know about severe flooding and what that meant during Hurricane Sandy and beyond. Now we're working with the property and casualty guys. Now we're trying to use computer modeling to see where are the next vulnerabilities, where's the next risk we got to do, where should we put more money to protect ourselves in the case of that next big storm. And that AI is going to be an incredibly important piece of that, and it makes a difference. I mean, I get the taxes. That's sort of important to a community like this. We're doing better. We've had, 6 balanced budgets in a row. This will be the 6th, and we'll be able to, I think, say we've got this budget done in the next 3, 4, 5 days. It's an honestly balanced budget like the previous ones were. Last year, as you know, we had about a $450 million tax cut, which made it sends a signal. This was a state that was considered a little anti-business, and we always went right back to the taxpayers every time we thought we had an issue. And we have not raised taxes in the 6 years we've been here. And in fact, we had a pretty significant middle-class tax cut last time around. And that keeps us very competitive all across the country, at least those states that have an income tax. Those southern states, they always compare them to, they have a flat tax. So if you're earning up to about $250,000 in Connecticut, you're generally doing better here than you would be down in a Georgia or South Carolina. We have a progressive income tax, so our top bracket is still higher than it is in those states, but at least we're able to compete at this point right now. Probably the biggest lodestone in terms of our taxes is our property tax. Some of that we do, we have a choice, but we like having 169 towns. We like having 169 superintendents and directors of curriculum, and we do a lot of independence. We pride ourselves in our feisty independence. We have a lot of duplicative services there. I'm trying to help out as best I can with the COGS, which is sort of the regional governments. My first couple of years, I was a little ambitious. I said, let's regionalize all these back office services like purchasing and IT and other places. I think we can save some money, but regionalization didn't really go on that. That wasn't such a big hit. So what I've tried to do instead is say, hey, look, we're going to get building inspectors and assessors and IT folks. We're going to hire them. They're going to be over at your COG, over at the regional government facility. So if you want them, maybe you're a smaller town, you can't afford somebody like that on a full-time basis, you can use those person, 1 or 2 days a week or whatever you may need in order to make a difference. I'll say our property tax is still heavy, but people sometimes mislead. I look down at Florida because everybody always compares us to Florida. Their property insurance is through the roof. That's tripled or more because of severe flooding. Get back to resilience, like I said before. So between our property tax and property insurance, we're sort of roughly comparable to other states like Florida in that sense. But we still have a way to go. I'm not done yet, and I know what progress we have to do. A lot of it we have within our own power. I think when it comes to workforce and training and making sure that the first time in my life that I'm getting up there, there's a job for everybody. And no matter what your background, I don't want to hear anybody say nobody like me has ever had a job like that before. It's an opportunity to really lift everybody up, give them that opportunity. We have 70 or 80,000 unfilled jobs, a lot of them right here. We're providing free workforce training, and if workforce training isn't enough, we can also get you the daycare support that perhaps you need, get you the transportation, even give you some rent relief. Anything I can to get you back in the game, get you back working. And we got to continue to lift our workforce participation up because that's how you get more people in the game. I'll leave you with 2 things. One is if I got one issue that I am really concerned about, which I don't have as much control over, that's energy. And we have some of the highest electricity prices in the country. We're at the very end of the supply chain. I think it was a good thing we did the Millstone deal. That went back about 5 or 6 years ago. We locked in a price at 5 cents a kilowatt hour. Sometimes I look really smart, sometimes I look really stupid, depending on what the price of natural gas is. But right now, we know we have a guaranteed carbon-free source of power through the end of this decade, and I look to try and continue that for decades to come. I think that constant carbon-free source of power that we have a lot of say over makes a big difference. Wind power, as you know, New London is the wind power capital, certainly of the Northeast and beyond. State Pier, a little controversial, I remember that, but it's full, it's occupied, it's making money, made $1 million last year. That means in 300 years we'll break even, but we're making a little bit of money on it. And, we've got our own Revolution Wind is coming up. It's going to be fully engaged for at least the next, 5 years. We're going to be adding on a lot of wind power, enough to power about 300,000 homes, thanks to Revolutionary Wind. That'll come on over the next 3 or 4 years. I do worry a little bit about wind power. It's expensive, offshore wind. So I've got to come up with the right balance there in terms of going forward. I tend to think that it's short-term supply chain issues, higher interest rates. I think the cost of wind power is going to come down a lot over the next 3 or 4 years, just like you've seen over in Europe in years past, but we're watching that carefully. I'm thinking about bringing down hydro from Quebec, where they have a fair amount of water power there. But these permitting, God, it just takes forever. And I got to get 6 other governors on board with ideas like this. And the feds are a little asleep when it comes to national energy policy. So if you want to know where I have some concerns, it's probably in the case of electricity and energy, because our workforce is pretty competitive. Our taxes are more competitive, but our electricity is expensive, and electricity is a bigger and bigger piece of making a submarine an F-35. So I've got to work on that. I'll say one thing. I had a good time going to some basketball games this last couple of months. Start out right down the street at Mohegan Sun, Big East, and I kind of liked the fact that everybody all around the country was talking about Connecticut for a week or two there. Love what it means in terms of having a winner right down the street in Storrs, Connecticut. I was there with the fans cheering our hearts out, and when they're winners, I'd like to think that Connecticut feels like winners and people identify us as winners. And you don't pay me much in this job, but you get me really good basketball seats. And so I got to sit with the Hurley family and the Clingden family and the Castle family, and oh man, when Dan Hurley loses his temper, the entire Hurley family loses their temper, they're ranting away, and when Clingden gets a dunk, the entire Clingden family, so you really feel the energy and passion, and I feel it, on behalf of Connecticut a little bit. I think this was a state that was a little down on itself 5-10 years ago. And I'd like to think we're feeling better about where we are as a state and where we're going. But I can't do it without each and every one of you. I need you to be champions for the state, just like the Yukon Huskies are. When people ask you about the state of Connecticut, tell them the good, the bad, and the challenging, but emphasize the good if you would. Just what it's like to do business here, how we're making progress. We have a way to go, but we're making progress. And it's not a bad place to grow and expand your business. And if we can keep that positive momentum going, I'm feeling pretty good about where we are. I don't know, I can't go on for half an hour. How's that, Tony?
We have Tammy Hendricks, who is the Director of Health Equity and Outreach. And Tammy, can you come up and say a couple of words?
My name is Tammy Hendricks. I'm the Director of Health Equity and Outreach at Access Health Connecticut. Thank you to the Chamber for having us today. We are really excited to be able to be the presenting sponsors. And thank you, Governor Lamont. Your administration is doing amazing work throughout the state, and it's just happy to be here with you, happy to hear about all the great work. Like Governor Lamont, Access Health Connecticut, we are committed to improving the lives and well-being of people in Connecticut. We are the state's official health insurance marketplace, I always say exchange, marketplace for individuals, families, small businesses, where you can shop, compare, and enroll in a quality health and dental insurance plan. We are also the only place that Connecticut residents can qualify for financial help to lower their cost in health insurance. And that's so important because our mission is to decrease the number of uninsured residents in Connecticut and also to reduce health disparities. And we know that having health insurance is important for living a long, healthy life. As an organization, engaging with communities is really important part of our work. It's actually what my department and I do every single day. We partner with over 2,000 community partners across the state, ensuring that all residents have access to quality health insurance and the help that they need to enroll. We also introduced the Broker Academy in 2022 to address our mission and really to focus in on the second part of our mission, which is to reduce health disparities and expand our outreach to underserved communities. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Broker Academy, it's a free program that Access Health developed to train individuals from underserved communities to be licensed health and life insurance brokers. And these brokers are very committed. We have some brokers in the New London area as well, very committed to working in the communities, improving health literacy, and also helping with health insurance enrollment. So thank you again, Governor Lamont, for your continued support for the Broker Academy. Over the past 2 years, we've graduated 50 students. We haven't, thank you. We've graduated 50 students. We have 80 students coming into this new class, so we're really looking forward to that. So thank you again, Governor Lamont, for your support with that program. The students look forward to your welcome video every single year, and so we're happy that you're able to support us in that way. And I will turn it back over. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Enjoy.